That's no moon.
What's up, everybody? We are live. It is episode 25 of the Hardcore Casual Podcast. He is Jay of F1 Podcast fame. I am Mason of Radio Infamy, and we are the conversation at the table behind you. It has been quite the week, and we are coming in here by the skin of our teeth. It has been insane. Jay.
And I feel like we say this every week, but first off, it's hot. It's so hot out here. I'm still, even after many years growing up in the, I grew up on the east side of the country. I'm still not used to this heat out here and how long it lasts. And then you add that with just the sheer intensity at work right now. Yeah, man, I was coming in hot tonight for this show. So this is so cathartic for me, though. Really great therapy being on here tonight. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, good. Happy to have you. And yes, it is in the triple digits here in Texas, as it is every summer. But I keep it cool in the house, which is why I am wearing my airplane mode hoodie from Comfort Clothing. Go to comfortclothing.com/hardcore for 15% off. Shameless. They're having a sale right now, actually, for the summer, since obviously who's wearing a hoodie when it's triple digits outside? Not a lot of people, so you're getting a sale. So they have a sale where it's up to 70% off, and our discount code will actually stack on top of that. So feel free to jump to comfort.com/hardcore. Don't forget that, remove that second O, and you can take advantage of that. If you don't want to take advantage of it right now or during the sale, you can take advantage of it anytime you want. So it'll be around. But yeah, so I am, though, struggling with the heat. It's fine while I'm inside, and it's one of those things, like, as soon as you step outside just to go and check the mail or walk to the grocery store, it immediately feels like you're wearing the heat. So not great.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's been a wild one. It's been quite the eventful week, and I'm not sure. I do want to start off with a little bit of house cleaning before we get into some of the news items. And that is to say that this is one, oftentimes putting out videos or something like that, there's plenty of chances that you swing and you miss. But man, this is one where I took a swing and I knew that I missed. And that was, we did our review of the altars. And so I spent all this time putting this together. I thought it'd be really clever, since it's about clones, for me to have the intro of the video if I interrupted myself and handed myself a hoodie from comfort.com/hardcore. If I handed myself a hoodie in the intro. And so I did that. And then I spent all this time getting that to a point where I was like, okay, well, there it is. And then whenever I actually watched it back, I realized that it was highly unlikely, since all the lighting is here and not back there, that probably wouldn't even realize that it was me. And this was confirmed when my own girlfriend watched it and thought that it was my son that had walked into the room. So I was like, yep, that joke did not land. I missed on that one. So there's a little cleanup. I do not have a roommate. That was me, and that was the joke. So,
well, and after watching the video, and I've now watched it technically twice, where I watched it all and then I've watched it in snippets. But and I'm 45 minutes to an hour into the game right now, and I already love it. Unfortunately, there's another game that's dominating my time right now, and everybody knows what it is. I'm not even going to bring it up tonight, but
I doubt that.
So I'll try my damnedest not to bring it up tonight.
I would put money on. I would take that bet, sir.
Yeah. So anyway, short of deity showing up on here tonight and popping a message, then I will not bring up the greatness that is the game that I'm not going to be mentioning. But
Star Wars Genesis.
I'm still looking forward to getting more into the altars. And I'm just as a hanger on for your house cleaning. I gotta say, there were so many different game vibes I got all at once, just on the initial part. And I'm not spoiling anything for people, but I just want to add to what you said last week and say, definitely felt some Interstellar from the movie Interstellar. Felt some of that. I felt Martian after I got to the base. But then once they turn you loose to walk in the base, I got to tell you, it was very Fallout Shelter. the way it zooms out
It's
and you're
true.
looking at all the rooms from the side.
Or
And
XCOM, whenever you have your
yeah,
whole base there.
and I don't know if you've played any. They're in super indie games. The Far games, Far Changing Tide, and Far Lone Sales. Both of those games are like that too. They have this sideways mechanic where you're looking at all the rooms on your vessel. So I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was a breath of fresh air in a world where everything seems to be over the shoulder or first person. So I thought it was kind of cool.
Well, I'm looking forward to your thoughts, your ongoing thoughts as you progress through it, because it was a big surprise for me. I knew it was going to be interesting, but I was far more intrigued than I thought it would be. There's far more going on under the hood than I expected it. So I was very pleased with it. Very, very pleased with it.
Yeah.
So I guess we can kind of jump in here. So I guess our last point of order here today is going to be our spoiler takes on Fantastic Four. So we'll do some, I guess, a little bit of non-spoiler talk, and then we'll do some spoiler talk. That'll be at the end. That way, if you're watching this back, you can dip off if you haven't seen it yet, and we won't spoil anything for it. But that's our big one. I saw it later, like I saw it the evening of the last time that we recorded, and then you saw it like the day after that.
Yeah.
And I think we both thought it was. I thought it was fine. You seem to have liked it more than I did. So it's going to be interesting to see where we align and where we diverge on it.
Yeah, and then like I knew I would, because I always do this. As the kids say, I've had a chance to cook on it all week, and I've got some things that I liked initially, but after the week has passed that I'm not so sure about, and there were things I didn't like that I'm like, okay, I can see why they did that. That makes sense.
I'm particularly curious about those.
Yeah, so we'll get to that.
All right. So, do you want to start off with some of the Xbox news, or do you want to start off with the Sony news?
No, I think, dude, you were already hitting on all cylinders. I think you should lead that part. Go ahead and get it going, and then we can talk about my thing when we get to, because mine's, even though it's a bad news story, it's so hilarious. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up.
Well, we do have Microsoft news that will bleed into Sony news, and then we can ride that wave as we go. So, all right. Well, I guess the first thing, and this is one thing that we kind of expected, unfortunately, because it's always this way. So recently, whenever Microsoft laid off over 9,000 people all in one fell swoop, and it heavily hit the Xbox division, heavily hit Xbox Studios, and the thing that we talked about then is, like, they're going to announce record profits. It never fails. They do this every time where they announce record profits. They lay people off like, oh, well, we had no choice, just the financial situation, blah, blah, blah. And then they announce record profits. And no surprise, Microsoft announced record profits. They made $25 billion. Sorry, no, $27 billion last year. And that was 24% above the previous year. So they did, in fact, announce record profits, and it has a large part to do with AI. And first of all, I guess we'll stop there for a second. And I mean, is there anything else that you have to add as far as like announcing record profits after the layoffs, other than what we already expected? You're muted.
I'm not going to break any new ground here with because it's obvious. I mean, it's I'm still upset about it, and I feel like and we'll never know the correct answer on. I mean, you could say all kinds of things. You could say, well, I guess all the executives got new mega yachts, or you could say that they just did it because they wanted to be able to say that they showed a 24% growth year over year. But it's a false growth, right? So I don't know how you'd go into a boardroom and not say this is kind of a false growth, because we wouldn't have had this growth. And I wonder what the profits would have been had they not laid off if you had to factor in the insurance and the wages and
it's not going to make
unemployment tax.
They could have had a record year. Yeah. Still no problem. I mean, 24% above the previous year.
Yeah.
They would have been fine.
It feels like to me that this was the difference between 23 and 24%, which is even more of a kick in the woodpecker, if you know what I'm saying, to the 9,400 people that got laid off. So,
Oh, sorry. I actually said that wrong. I said year. It was $27.2 billion for the quarter. The quarter.
well, that's just a whole different bag of cats.
Yeah. So
Uh,
even worse. Even worse. That
yeah.
yeah. So just like, yeah, in 3 months they made that. No reason to fire. There was absolutely no need to fire all those people. It's not good. I hate it. I
Well,
hate it.
I do know that Microsoft does a lot of contractor work too. They have people that are under that actually aren't Microsoft employees. That way they can avoid having to pay benefits. They just have them. They're technically working for Microsoft. They're just not Microsoft employees. So it's hard to tell how many of those people there were. But still, there's no way this doesn't stink, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no way to.
But speaking of earnings and Microsoft, that brings us to the next one, which is, and this is why it's really hard, where it's like we have all these things where Xbox kind of had these really intriguing looks at some or interesting strategies, like whenever they had the handheld and this thing about where instead of having like a console, it's more just like a window where it's kind of they're all inclusive, where you can access your Xbox games, your Game Pass games, your Steam games, your Epic, launcher games, all these things all in one place. But then it's something like that with the 9,000 people laid off that just makes it really hard to stomach. But as far as their success, brings us to another story, which was for the last 12 months ending June 30th, 2025, Xbox Game Pass made $5 billion for the first time over the last 12 months. So it was one of those things where for the longest time, it was kind of the best kept secret in gaming. People just weren't even really aware of what it was. Like they would hear it, but they didn't know it simply because Xbox didn't have a really big player base. And slowly but surely it's been picking up. And then over the last, I don't know, 8 to 10 months, especially, it seems it has gotten a lot of traction on PC, and which it's been on PC for a long time, but it seems to have really picked up steam. And now, no pun intended, but now we are to the point where they made $5 billion over the last 12 months. I know that you are an avid user of Game Pass on PC.
Yeah, yes, I am. To me, it's one of the it's one of the best things for people that they can't afford everything that's coming out every single time. And I know a lot of people that are into that game. What's it called? Grounded, and we just got Grounded 2 day
Yeah,
one
yeah.
release, and we got Oblivion Remastered day one release. We got Wu Chang, which my son tried out and then ended up getting again on PlayStation, but at least it let him know, hey, this was something I was interested in. And then Indiana Jones. Now, I'm also an avid Steam guy, and I don't think anybody does sales better than Steam. I don't
That's
think
for
anybody
sure.
does. Sometimes you just, if you're willing to scroll and get through the fluff, you can find absolute 5-star gems for $2.99, $3.99. It's ridiculous. So anyway,
Well, so there we go. $5 billion. If you're not on Game Pass, I couldn't recommend it more highly. It's fantastic.
yeah,
You get a lot of first party games, or I'm sorry, you get all first party games day and date free, or at least included in your subscription. And it's really great value. It truly is the Netflix of video games. And that brings us to the other thing, though, where the concept of exclusivity, which is one of the things that months ago where we were talking about, like, what's their game? What are they thinking? Now that if you don't have exclusives, then you kind of don't have leverage, and it looks like their leverage is going to be that the window sort of aspect of it, of where you can access all of your libraries through this one place, and so they don't feel the need to have this exclusivity and think that the draw of having everything day and date on Game Pass is enough of a draw to get those people, and any of the other people that they can't get, they'll just sell to directly.
yeah.
And that's why of the top 10 games on PlayStation right now, six out of the top 10 best-selling games on PlayStation are actually Xbox games, Microsoft games. So in order, I guess we'll start at number 1 and work our way down. We
Hey,
have
can we
fourth.
stop on some of these because I have some
Yeah,
feedback
absolutely.
on some
Well,
of them.
let me do this. Let me read through the top 10 list,
Okay.
and so we get it all out there, and then we can break it down.
Yeah.
So to start at 1, and then so number 1 down to 10. Forza Horizon 5, The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered, MLB The Show 2025, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Doom the Dark Ages, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Minecraft, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Grand Theft Auto 5, WWE 2K25. And out of those 10, 6 are Xbox games, and those 6 being Forza Horizon 5, Elder Scrolls 4, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Doom the Dark Ages, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and Minecraft. So which ones did you want to hit on?
Well, first off, we got to start with Forza Horizon 5, because it is one of the best simcade, what sim racers call simcade games there are, because it's partial sim, partial arcade, more arcade than sim, but it's an open world racing title, and the closest thing that PlayStation even had was not an exclusive either, which was Ubisoft's Crew 2 and Crew Motorfest. Those are the closest thing to Forza Horizon 5. It's got
we all know what happened to the Crew.
It's got, well, the first one, yeah, for sure. Crew Motorfest is still going strong, but it's going to take a hit with Forza coming to Forza Horizon. I got to be careful because I don't want to say Forza Motorsport.
Yeah, there is a distinctive separation between the two properties.
And had they put Motorsport on there, it would have been a failure. And because of Gran Turismo, it is Microsoft's Gran Turismo.
Well, Motorsport is said to be on ice after those 9,000 layoffs.
Yeah. So anyway, that's not a non-issue. Minecraft, to me, Minecraft, it would be in the top 10 no matter what system you're talking about. And even though it's a Microsoft game, when it came out as from Mojang before they sold out, it was probably number 1 on everything for so many years. And so you look at that one, and then the Bethesda games, I absolutely get it with those. People want to play those, man. I don't think it's even about, and I'm not taking away from the fact that, yeah, Microsoft has 6 of the top 10. That's freaking outstanding. What I'm saying is it just shows you that people want good games. And those are all good games.
Yeah, and in fact, so if we look at the top 5 games, there's 6 out of the top 10, they're 4 out of the top 5.
Yeah,
if we break it down that way.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it's wild. And there's, again, the whole thing about exclusivity. It's always been a sticking point, and since they've already lost, they've lost the console war, and so like we've said before, they're just not trying to compete in the console war anymore. They're just trying to say, you know what? Instead of trying to put our console versus your console, they're trying to put their access to an entire gaming ecosystem against your console. They're trying to just out environment you. So PlayStation is very insular, as all of them used to be, and their new game is, okay, we're not going to compete on you console to console. We're going to say you can access this, you can access Steam, you can access this all in one place. And I think it's a pretty brilliant move. And I mean, there's some real bangers on here for sure. Obviously, like Indiana Jones, we have sung the praises of that game so many times on this show. It's absolutely phenomenal. I really hope that they continue on with that franchise with Troy Baker as Indiana Jones. Dude, absolutely channels Harrison Ford. It's amazing. One, though, that gets me on here, it just shows what an absolute world beater this franchise is. And it's Grand Theft Auto 5, man. It is number 9 on here. Whenever we are just, months away from Grand Theft Auto 6 releasing. I mean, this thing has been out for multiple system generations, and it is still out here ranking on top 10 lists. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, and it is. Their system. What's up, man? Good to see you.
Hello, System of War. System of Rips on TikTok.
Yeah. And this is not me trying to hate on GTA at all because I played it, I love it. Um, got so high level, there's just nothing left to do for me. But
We're actually going to talk about GTA
and
6
but
later too.
no game caters to trolls better than GTA though. I will say
Online
that.
in particular.
People that absolutely just get off on ruining other people's gaming session, they play GTA. That's a GTA is a playground for that. It is an absolute troller's playground. And I've got a bunch of them that work for me, and that's all they're like, man, this guy, he just kept trying to do this, and I just ruined his whole night. And I go, just think that guy worked his ass off all day, came home for a little fun, and you guys jacked it. And they're like, yeah, man, it was so cool. I'm like, dude, eat a dick, kind of thing. It's, so, but yeah, it's phenomenal how the impact that game has had, and not just that one, but all of them. Going back to the first 3D one, 3, and the San Andreas, the one that a lot of people think is the best. I don't. I like Vice City as far as stories go, but it is what it is. But yeah, you're right. That thing's been up there forever.
So that's all I've got there, but I thought that would bleed nicely into your Sony news story.
It would, but I got to tell you too. I hope at some point we pull up the top 10 games on Xbox.
I'm sure
I'd be willing to bet there's a couple PlayStation ones on there.
Well, so that's gonna. Well, I mean, there's not going to be any PlayStation ones on there because PlayStation doesn't.
MLB The Show
put their. Oh well, I guess that
MLB The Show was the first one to cross over.
Yeah, I don't remember what the stuff with that. That's the only one that would be there, I guess. But the Xbox ones though would be a bit skewed because Xbox has Game Pass, and since you don't buy Game Pass games, that would be a bit skewed as far as the selling games. But yeah, as far as the Sony news goes, though, you had this one that you wanted to bring up.
So Sony is suing Tencent Games, obviously, for what they're calling their Horizon Zero Dawn ripoff. And I'm going to show you a couple screenshots in a minute it's going to be reminiscent of your compare contrast on Marathon, but this one is bad enough by itself. I mean, it's disgusting. This game's called the Light of Motiram or Motoram or whatever it's called that they've got coming out. But this is what I wanted to show you. So this is the cover game art for Horizon Zero Dawn stretched out.
Yeah, you can see this red-headed tribal, the red-headed girl with this sort of like tribal aesthetic. You've got the biomechanical wildlife in this lush sort of area with the snow-capped mountains. Very distinctive, very Horizon.
Now we're going to, because it's so different, I wanted to show you the game cover art. I mean, it's drastically different. The game cover art for the Light of Motoram.
Yeah, so now you can see the red-headed girl with the tribal aesthetic, with the biomechanical creatures in this lush environment with the snow-capped mountains. Very distinctive, obviously. This is crazy, dude. This is rough. In fact, what I wish we would have done is the thing where have you ever seen The Doors with Val Kilmer?
Yes, absolutely.
So that he performed all the songs, right?
Yes.
So, and the way that he got to do that was he was in a car with Oliver Stone. He'd been talking to him, wanting to do the songs all his own. He wanted to perform it, and he was like, "No, you can't do it. You can't perform like him." And so he played 3 songs. He got the director in there, played 3 songs for the director, and he's like, "If you can tell me which one of these was me, then you win. I won't perform." And so he plays all 3 songs, and he's like, "Well, I know these 2, that was The Doors. This one's you." And he's like, "No, they were all me. They were all me, all 3 of them." And so he's like, "Okay, you can do it. You can perform on the way." So I almost wish we would have done like a Photoshop where you put this photo up, but put Horizon Zero Dawn as the title in the middle. No one would know.
Yeah. I always think of that Brooklyn, whatever it was, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, whatever the name of that cop, that Andy Samberg one, where he's like, "Hey, tell me which one of these is your locker." or he goes, no, one of these photos is from a alley in the Philippines, and the other one's your locker. And he goes, can you tell which one's which? And he goes, well, that's my locker. He goes, they're both your locker. So, but yeah, man, this is I don't see Tencent coming out of this lawsuit with even a remotely happy situation.
So I did some digging into this, and did you hear some of the other details about the
No,
relationship? Okay, so this
I
is
was
where it
going with
gets
the humor part of this, which was wow.
well. This is where it gets really good. Is so I believe it was 2023 that Tencent
Okay.
approached Sony and said, "Hey, how would you feel about us doing a Horizon game? Like license it to us, and we can do a Horizon game, something in that world, and we could partner up on this. We could crank this out. We can do this." And Sony said, "Thank you, but no,
No.
we're good." And then Sony found out that before Tencent had even approached Sony, they had already been working on this game for over a year. So they had been working on this game for over a year before they even approached Sony to say, "Hey, how would you feel about licensing Horizon to us?" And they said no. So then after they said no, they found out they'd been working on it before. So then they got back in touch with them. They were like, "Hey, so
We
we've been
said
made
no.
aware that you were actually working on this even without authorization to do it. So please stop doing that." They then offered again to, "Hey, just we'll pay you for the license, we'll do this." And Sony again refused and said no. And then we are now at this point. So they twice asked for permission to make a Horizon Zero Dawn game. Twice they were told no, and they just kept going anyway. So this was it. They don't have a lot of leg to stand on here because it was obviously conceived with the idea of it being a Horizon game. I see no evidence that they made any attempt to make it intellectually, like as far as intellectual properties go, to make it legally distinct. And now we're here. Now, granted, we're talking about two massive companies with deep pockets. I'm sure this is going to come down to a settlement. I doubt it's going to go to trial, but
Right. It'll be like a mediation, and there'll be an amount.
yeah,
I'm
Sony was asking for something like 100 and was it 130, 140, or $170,000 per infringement, and I don't know what they consider an infringement. Whether it's like, oh, like is it like because if it's like the main character, is it like the main character and then each of the animals and all? Because there's a lot of infringing here. There's a lot of infringing here.
Let me ask you this, Tencent, is the name of your main character Yola? Because that's just backwards for Alloy.
And have you seen this game in motion?
I have not.
You would not be surprised to learn that it looks exactly like Horizon Zero Dawn in motion. It is unreal.
Tencent's they're already the king of just mass producing these. Like, don't they do Genshin, or is that somebody else?
That is, I can't remember the name of the company that actually does Genshin, but I'm sure Tencent owns a piece of that. They own a piece of everything. They are the company that is slowly overtaking Ubisoft, and like they're everywhere. Tencent is everywhere. So
yeah, they're basically the Dubai of the oil business.
Tencent is Galactus for the games industry. And then we got this. Obviously, they are pretty confident in themselves because this is just come get me. This is them just slapping on the table and being like, "Just try it. I dare you to." Yeah, and they took them up on the dare. So good for Sony. I mean, like I said, it's two massive companies. It's not like anybody's the underdog here, but I'm not a fan of Tencent or their sort of philosophy when it comes to, because they're not made up of gamers. They're just made up of money people. There's no passion for gaming or anything like that. It's just all about the money for Tencent. And yeah, so I am okay if they come out bruised on this one.
It makes me think too. You and I are both old enough to where we came up in the heyday of the fighting games, the fighting video games. And, everybody had the school they belonged to, whether it was Tekken or Street Fighter or even Virtua Fighter or Soul Calibur. but those games still managed to differentiate them. Mortal Kombat managed to differentiate themselves as wholly separate games. You know, we see a lot of clone games, and you can crawl into the bargain bin of independent games and find any number of games that's just like the one that's right next to it in the storefront. So it blows my mind that they would even remotely be able to get away with this at some point, or if they're going to have to do some kind of wholesale reskinning of this game.
See, that's one thing that I would like. Like I said, I'm sure it's probably going to end in a settlement. Tencent is their cup runneth over with money. They're going to try to settle, but I would like it if we could get some kind of decision on this. Like maybe set a precedent where it's like, hey, you know, this was clearly done with malicious intent, or I guess it didn't start out as malicious. It started out with them, I guess, under the assumption that they were going to get the game, but then they proceeded after being told no once and then twice. Like at some point it becomes malicious, and there's got to be something where we can set some kind of precedent against that kind of thing, because this is not a first. This kind of thing, like you'd mentioned, going back to Marathon's art theft, stealing anti-reals art. It's a thing where it's becoming more and more prevalent, and it's kind of becoming one of the things that just happens in games. And I don't want it to become a thing that just keeps happening. Like we need to find some way to control that. And the fact that it was done by one of the biggest entities, unfortunately, in games is just, it's inexcusable. So I would like to see some kind of precedent be brought here, but like I said, I think it's going to settle. I don't think we're going to get to anything where we can have any kind of precedent set.
Yeah, and it's you know, part of it reeks of a generational pattern that I'm seeing a lot lately. If you ask for something and you get told no, you just keep asking the next person until you get the answer you want. It's almost like somebody's in front of the judge going, hey, we asked nicely twice and they just kept saying no, so we just did it.
They were big meanies, so we asked Dad.
Yeah. So it just, and you're just standing there in disbelief. You know, if you've been around to remember the 80s, you're just standing there in disbelief going, well, you've been told no. That's the end of the conversation.
Well, and I don't know if there's been any sort of like verification of it, but there were supposedly some insiders from the Tencent side where they had mentioned to reporters and stuff that basically the opinions in Tencent and the sort of the frame of mind in Tencent was ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah, and a lot of people are doing that. So, you know, that's the way it's going in a lot of areas. Yeah, and System of War said the most recent art theft happening is in Pokemon TCG, and there's so much going on that's so messed up in Pokemon.
Oh, see, I would be curious to learn more about that, because that's System's world. That's what, so guys on TikTok, System of Rips, that's what he does, is he opens new Pokemon cards and trading card games every day. So I would be interested in what's going on there.
These crazy tackle football Sam's and Costco videos, though, dude, where people are taking out pallets and stuff. And I'm like, how is that even happening? I know we're off topic here, but dude, seriously.
Well, that certainly never happens on the Hardcore Casual podcast.
Yeah, we never go off topic. But anyway, yeah, I just don't see them having any favorable outcome with this lawsuit. So anyway, that was my Sony 10-cent lawsuit piece.
Well, I wanted to bring in one where we can go, it blends two of our love languages, right? And that is gaming and conspiracy theories. So, yeah. Yeah. So it was announced. It was announced. Well, I guess actually technically we can start off. We will put off the conspiracy talk momentarily for just a couple of minutes so that we can hit your Battlefield impression. So because Battlefield will play into this, ladies and gentlemen, but you wanted to touch on Battlefield and the videos that have now been released.
Okay, so first off, we got an official trailer. We got a teaser, and then literally it was like a couple days later we got the actual trailer, which I thought was crazy. And then today we got the multiplayer gameplay trailer, which I thought was super important, especially for the Call of Duty crowd, because I'm trying to convert Call of Duty players one player at a time, because Battlefield is a combined arms battlefield, and it's not as much of a Twitch shooter as Call of Duty is. But anyway, but all the trailers released were phenomenal. The gameplay one was great because like I said, it showed you gameplay, not cinematics, and so you got to see some of the new tools that are available. And I got to tell you, the tool list and special weapons list is robust. Is probably the best word I can use. The feedback
Good
from
word.
People that are in the closed beta for it, that are basically content creators, it's kind of polarizing, and you could tell which ones of them are actually COD guys and which ones are actually Battlefield guys. So it was easy to be able to tell, but for the most part, they're liking it. What people are not liking is on launch day. That's what some of us are. But so apparently, the game is going to be on PlayStation Store on launch day for $69.99, unless you buy like an upgraded version and you get early access. And on Steam, it's going to be $69.99. On Xbox proper, it's going to be $69.99. But if you were on Game Pass Ultimate, wait for it. It's a day one release. So obviously the rest of those groups I just mentioned have went batshit crazy over the fact that Game Pass people are going to get it for free. And technically we're not getting it for free. We have to pay for the subscription.
Included in subscription.
Yes, but
which is a lot less than $70 a month.
Right. So, I'm happy because I'm going to get it through Game Pass. That's awesome. And I feel for the people that don't have Game Pass. I do. But, that's life. There's things that those people get sometimes that Game Pass people don't. So,
well, I will say that one of the complaints that I have heard about Game Pass is that what you get on day one release is the standard edition. Yeah. And I'm like, but it's free though. Like it's free. Like, yeah, it's just the standard. It's just the standard edition, but it's free. It's you if you want some of the other stuff, you can still buy the game. But like a lot of these games are games that maybe I would be like, I'm not that into it. But the fact that I can play it for free or at no additional cost on Game Pass, I'm like, you know what? I will play this game and then get into it that way. So the fact that it's only the standard version, I mean, come on, guys. But it's still a crazy good deal, and it's been good. So the $70 is where this conspiracy starts. So now we can get into conspiracy. So, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's also important to note because we never do mention this, and I don't think anybody that talks about Game Pass does. We also get discounts on the DLC.
That's true.
So for all the people that say you're only getting the standard version, yes, but if we end up liking the game, we're going to get 10 to 30% off on the DLC if we want it.
Which is very similar to the 15% off you can get at comfort.com/hardcore. 15% off any purchase. You can use it anytime, and also you can use it as many times as you want. Also, they have a summer sale going on right now, up to 70% off, and our discount stacks with that. Comfort.com/hardcore. There we go.
Like how I set that up for you right there.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No idea.
The conspiracy here, now let's go. So as you mentioned, the game is releasing for $69 or $70. So no strangers to hot takes here at Hardcore Casual, and we have gotten lambasted for many. But this is a one that I've been working on for a while, and anybody that's been watching, this is my current theory that I've been cooking up. So if we take a trip to the Wayback Machine. All I'm saying is that Randy Pitchford is our anchor bean, okay? So this is my case here, okay? So it has been announced that EA is not going to be doing anything that is $80 at least this fiscal year, which would bleed into next year. So they are out of the $80 game debate for the time being. And Andrew Wilson, their CEO, basically in an earnings call put that out and said that they weren't going to be doing that. So there's a whole quote. We don't need to read it. But so we have basically the start of everything was Nintendo came out, Mario Kart's going to be $80. Xbox came out and said, hey, all of our releases, like first party releases starting holiday 2025, $80. And then there was then we actually had GTA drop out, and GTA 6 dropped. I think that was actually probably first. GTA 6 dropped to next year, and then we had Borderlands 4, and it was sort of like all eyes were on Borderlands 4. With GTA 6 dropping out, Borderlands 4 was the next big release that was going to be third party. So all we had up to that point was first party games were going to be $80. Who was going to be the first third party to go 80? And it came down to Borderlands 4. All eyes, unjustly, probably, but all eyes came down to Borderlands 4 and Randy Pitchford. And he, as he is wont to do, we love you, Randy, but he fumbled that PR. It was a PR disaster. It was the talk of the gaming media. Everything he said got lambasted. And then he apologized. And then his apologies were skewered. And then he said something else. And that was overanalyzed. It was a nightmare, which I'm sure, as long as Randy just doesn't tweet, I'm sure they are probably content that it is over. But after that, we had Xbox announce that Outer Worlds 2 was not going to go to $80. Not only was Outer Worlds 2 not going to go to $80, they weren't going to do any of these price increases holiday 2025 like they said. None of the holiday releases are going to be $80. Now we have EA saying that we're not going to be doing $80 games, at least for fiscal year 2025, which assumedly includes Battlefield. So now we have everybody that was first running headlong into $80 games is now retreating. And I think it's because of the absolute nightmare whirlwind of PR that surrounded Randy Pitchford and Borderlands 4. That is my conspiracy. Your thoughts, Jay?
Well, my first thought is, without even knowing it, I feel like Randy Pitchford fell on the sword for the entire
That's what I'm
game
saying.
Development community. So, thank
He's
you,
our
Randy,
anchor
for
being.
that. I realize Russ is constantly just slamming you, but buddy, I'm here for you. So I'm going to defend you for a little bit. But yeah, thanks for falling on the sword for that. And I'm sure EA's thankful, and whoever else that's coming out with titles. Konami's got Metal Gear coming out. We've got Gears of War coming out. So, it's going to be this is actually a pretty big month in gaming coming up in August. I think there's like 16 AAA titles coming out in August or something like that. Something insane. But yeah, so do I still think it's inevitable that we're going? Absolutely. Yeah, I think we're going to see it by holidays.
I don't. I do not think we'll be seeing it by holidays. I don't think it'll be. I think it'll be next year.
You may be right.
Because if Xbox has already said, okay, no, we're not doing it for holidays. EA said they're not going to do it at least for fiscal year 2025, and Borderlands 4 is not going to be it. I think anybody would be crazy to try to do it. Obviously, the reason that everybody is trying to run as quickly as they can away from it is because of how unpopular they saw that it was. And now I'm sure that we're probably going to be having the same conversation again early next year, probably around the time that GTA 6 comes out. And you and I have both had our speculations on that, and we both kind of said that as it is right now, the temperature of the games industry right now, they would just be best off leaving it as is and just getting a bajillion buyers so that they can make their money back on online.
Well, yeah, and both of us said that about Sony when this first came up with the whole Nintendo bit. But
yeah, we're like, just hold.
And trust me when I tell you, I want to believe you more than I want to believe me. So there is that. I think somebody's going to.
I don't know who would be brave enough to run headlong into it this holiday.
I'm trying to think of those games that that are coming out this month and the rest of this year as we move towards the end of 2025, and it's hard to tell who would want to try to venture into that $80 market.
I think what happened though was, like I said, Randy is our anchor being, and where Randy goes, as do we all. And Randy, as you said, fell on the sword, and it was brutal. Yeah. And I think everybody saw that, and they're like, "Oh, I think all these people, I think EA, Xbox, all these people thought, you know what? Just like they always have, we're gonna say a price. They're gonna mumble about it. They're gonna complain about it, but then they're gonna buy the games. And then there's something about this $80 wall that seems to be the stopping point. I don't know what it is, but it's even that way for me, where there's games where I'm like, you know what? At 50, no brainer. At 60, yeah, I'd probably buy it. At 70, I'll buy it whenever maybe whenever I want to play it, I'll wait and buy it then. But at 80, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not buying it. So there's something about this $80 wall that has just touched a nerve where it's even where the people are more resistant to it than ever. Because I think at that point, a lot of us just kind of round up. And I think once you hit $80, you just think $100, and then you're like, do I want to part with $100 right now?
Yeah, and that's probably what'll happen. But I got to tell you, like right now, it's easy for me to take a idealistic approach and go, yeah, we're not ready for $80. But the realism in me is going to set, if we're having this conversation a year from now, and it's the same people, I'm going to be like, you know what, nut up and pay the $80 because it's here. We're not stopping it. It's been another whole year. How long did you honestly think they were going to hold it back?
Well, so this is what I think. I think Randy saved us all. His public lashings and embarrassment saved us this holiday season. You love him or hate him. I love him. You love him. You know, we've been very gracious to him on the show while we have had our fun. But even the people love him or hate him, I think the lashings that the public tomato throwing that this dude endured got us a $70 holiday season. And I think next year, the bellwether is going to be GTA 6. And I think if GTA 6 holds, just like Sony held, like this whole thing, Sony never announced one way or the other. Sony didn't have to backtrack because Sony just held tight. They're like, no, we're just gonna ride this out. Let's just see how this goes. And so now they get to stand tall and be like, okay, well, we don't have to announce any changes. We just go about things as usual. But I think that GTA 6 will be the one, because if GTA 6 moves to 80, then everybody's going to want to say, okay, well, now we're 80 because we're just as good as GTA 6, even though they know that not nearly the amount of effort has gone into it. But if GTA 6 launches and it launches at $70, I don't think anybody has an argument to make that their game should be $80 when GTA launched at 70. So I think the bellwether for next year is GTA, and whatever GTA sets their price as, that's going to be the cap for another year.
Did you see the financial stat video on GTA last week for GTA 6?
I saw and heard that it is possible. Obviously, this is all these kinds of numbers.
Part of it's projection, right?
But yeah, but I had heard that the total development cost for GTA 6 could be near and around, hear my words, because this you will not mishear this, $2 billion. $2 billion.
For a comparison, if you need one, it only cost $1.6 billion to build the Burj Khalifa skyscraper in Dubai. So we're talking about a game that, with development, marketing, everything that goes into it, is going to cost more to make than it costs to build the entire Burj Khalifa. And that within 30 days, they're projected to clear somewhere in the neighborhood of, there's numbers between 10 billion and 30 billion.
I heard low balls of 7.
Yeah.
And I think that was a projection from like within the first week.
Yeah, that's
power.
That's printing money. So my point is, long way getting there. Sorry for the circumlocution, but is that they don't need to charge $80.
No.
They're going to be printing money for shark cards. They're going to be printing money for the game. So that's
what I'm saying.
Part of me thinks that Rockstar's like, you know what? We're going to give it to you for $70. Let somebody that thinks their game is better than ours bust the $80 cap.
Yeah, and
that's so that we can laugh at you.
Exactly, and that's what's going to happen if they come out and they say we're $70, and then Call of Duty Modern Warfare 48 comes out, and they're like, "Oh, there's no campaign. It's all multiplayer, and it's $80." Everybody's gonna be like, "Yeah, no,
And it's a
no."
1 terabyte install.
Yeah, like no, man. Like, are you kidding me? GTA 6 was 70. Why are you, like I dare somebody to put their game out at $80 after
I mean,
after GTA launches at 70.
you've got grown ass men in their 30s, probably in their 40s, executive level employees at companies that are taking a week of PTO when GTA 6 comes out.
Oh, I guarantee you there is going to be a wave of flu whenever GTA hits. Just this crazy surge that's going to hit call-in lines everywhere.
I've
of
already had
people having the flu.
pre-meetings with my employees.
Like,
I've already
I swear
had
to God, if you
pre-meetings,
guys call out that week.
and I'm like, let me tell you, I've already met with all of them, and I said, listen, if you call in anytime within the week of GTA 6 coming out, I'm gonna nail you for it. And I mean, I'm gonna nail you hard because I know you're lying. And if you take PTO, you take PTO. I get that. But calling in with I'm so sick, I can't come in today. And then appearing offline
While you hear
so
the
that you don't
loading
get
screen
busted.
in the background.
Yeah. Appearing offline so you don't get
Lo-fi
busted.
beats.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. That game's gonna shut down the market for a while. But
so yeah, that is my bold prediction right now, is that where GTA goes next year, that's where the next year goes. So I think that we have put off this debate for 1 year. GTA controls it next, but this is yet another brick in my theory. All I'm saying is that Randy Pitchford is our anchor bean, okay? That's all I have to say. So there we go. Randy Pitchford is our anchor bean. I rest my case.
Your case is rested.
Yes. So that is all I have as far as gaming news. Do you have anything else in gaming before we move on to other media?
I got one other thing, and it's really small, but to me, it's not small. And to anybody that are fans of James S.A. Corey, that it's not small. And to people that are Amazon Prime Video people that watched every season of The Expanse multiple times. But Outcat Games is starting to trickle out small bits of media on locations, little snippets of places. And this week they did Ganymede, and they also did a little bit of series and talking about, Ganymede has these tunnels that are underneath it that smugglers use to, conduct illicit, behavior, this and that. So I think these are in an effort to show us where we're going to be going. I mean, we probably could have guessed that we were going to end up on Ganymede and series and all these places, but letting us know that there's an underground tunnel system, which we also saw on the show, by the way, where a lot of this illegal behavior says, hey, we're going to have you in these tunnels and you're going to get in, fights down in these tunnels. But it's just got me excited that they're starting to leak out these small little portions of information.
I'm still very excited for, which I'm sure we're a ways away from it, but I'm very excited to start to see some gameplay. Even just some early gameplay. I'd really like to know, like, kind of what the vibe is going to be. If the combat is as reminiscent of Mass Effect 2 as what we've seen from the rest of the game, because I would be so stoked if it had that same kind of vibe. I desperately want this to fill the hole that Mass Effect has left, that was obviously not filled by Andromeda or anything there. So it looks so good. I was blown away whenever that dropped, during that award show weekend, and been so excited for it since. It's just one of those things where there's so little information, but we're in a time where, obviously they've been around for a while. I wasn't familiar with them because I don't play PC games, don't have a gaming PC, so I hadn't been familiar with what Outcats put out before. But this is obviously their most ambitious title yet. But some people might find that there was a time where this would be a big red flag, where you'd be like, oh yeah, it's gonna be their first big thing like this, though. But in this day and age, I mean, we've got things like Clair Obscur you know, where things like that, where you're having people putting out bangers on their studio's first game. So I'm just excited for this thing, and I hope that it continues to look as good as everything that we've seen. But I'm super excited and looking forward to seeing how the moment to moment gameplay works, and how the actual sort of RPG and like character interaction works, like the dialogue selections, the dialogue trees, all that. I can't wait to see how it all works. And we don't even know when it releases yet, but I'm hoping that by holiday next year we get to play it.
You know, I was thinking the other day too, I hope they incorporate, there's aspects of the show that really weren't in the books that I hope they incorporate. Like, I'm thinking of the scene when they had the proto molecule being on the Rocinante, and Holden and Amos go down there, and Holden ends up getting pinned up against the wall with like a piece of bulkhead or whatever. And Amos has to go back up there, and you know, Holden's doing his typical, "Hey guys, it's been an honor being here," and, you know, doing that. And Naomi's like, "Would you shut up?" And then Amos is like, "Don't worry, boss, I'll pull the plug." But if you remember that scene, you'll know that they changed their strategy like 12 different times on how they were going to tackle that situation. And I hope they bring that. I hope they're somehow able to translate that into the game, and be like, okay, we're going to go at it at this angle, and then that angle doesn't work.
See, that
we need
actually,
to back up and redo it.
Now that you bring that up, that would be awesome, because that's really something that you don't get a lot in games. Actually, I can't think of one where it's like they spend all this time like, oh, I'm going to do this and put all this work. I'm doing all this prep work, and we go in there, and then it's all for nothing. It falls apart.
Goes tits up just fast.
Yeah, where it's like some people might find that annoying, but I think if you put it right in the story, it's going to be really entertaining, that you have to constantly think on your feet and change your approach. That would be awesome, actually.
Yeah, and there was no better crew at doing that than and they had to do it from necessity, not because they were particularly skilled at it, but the crew of the Rocinante were constantly having to think on the balls of their feet. So yeah, I'm looking forward, and I hope they show a lot of that. And I really hope they play into the differences in language, because that was a big part of this show, especially for the Belters. Trying to translate some of the stuff they said, sometimes it was like watching that scene from Austin Powers Goldmember, when Austin's sitting on the edge of the bed with his dad, and they're just doing a full British slang, and you're sitting there going, what the shit did he just say? So,
well, that was, I mean, not to go off on a whole tangent on the Expanse, because we've done that so many times before, but it was just one of the most well thought out worlds in modern sci-fi, just because of the amount of thought that they put into, we have this thing where it's all humanity, but it's splintered into the Earthers, the Belters, and the Martians. And the Belters had never been on Earth. It's been all artificial gravity. So they were longer, like they were taller, their arms were longer, and their bones were less dense because they hadn't had to deal with gravity. So getting them onto Earth, it was like basically like torture. They had to keep them in water chambers to kind of like even out the gravity, unless they wanted them to be tortured. And then we had the whole technology aspect of the Martians, because of their sort of branching technology that they went off. It was just so well thought out about how it really could branch if we did have this kind of situation. I don't know. I just love the world building behind the Expanse. I'm just blown away by the amount of thought that went into it.
And you talk about anchor beings on that show, or you were talking about anchor beings earlier. And on that show, there are quite a few. But you look at Jared Harris's character, Anderson Dawes. He really sold the Belter, the whole mindset of a Belter. Nobody sold it better than he did. And you look at on the Rocinante, I really feel like Amos was the anchor being, even though he was the last person you would think would be that guy. And you look at Christian, and you look at Miller and Bobby, and those guys really brought home what all aspects of this universe was, better than anybody else. And
love Miller.
Yeah. And I'm hoping they really, one thing they've teased is that we're going to meet some of these people that we know and love. And hopefully they got the cast back to do those voiceovers.
I don't think
And
they would put
B,
it out there if they didn't get them.
yeah. And B, I hope there's a shit ton of them. I hope there's missions we go on with Miller, and I hope there, or whatever. So I think that'd be freaking cool, man.
I'm with you. All right. So I guess we can move on to our entertainment aspect of the show. And I guess I'll start off with this. And that is, so whenever I went and watched the Fantastic Four, there was a trailer that I did not expect to see. And you and I walked away with vastly different impressions of it would seem. And that was the trailer for Avatar, Fire and Ash. So this would be Avatar 3. So by James Cameron. I was excited. I like the Avatar movies. I get that, the whole thing about Avatar 1 is Ferngully. I totally understand that, but I still loved it. And Avatar 2, there's some stuff that annoyed me, or maybe annoyed's not the word, but I was nitpicky about in Avatar 2, but I still enjoyed the movie. And I'm stoked for Avatar 3 and Jake Sully's continued ascension as this messianic figure that he is becoming. So his Atreides like rise as Paul. So I am stoked about Avatar 3, Fire and Ash. Jay, you, however, seem to be less enthusiastic.
I saw a different trailer, I guess, because mine was called Avatar Dying of Fire. So here's the thing. When you're growing up and you're going through your life, there are certain movies you see that are absolutely phenomenal one-offs. These movies do not require sequels. The best case of this, of it being not done right, is the Highlander, which oddly enough, the whole theme of Highlanders, there can be only one. And for all of us real fans, there can be only one. And it's just the first Highlander movie. They introduced some kind of weird alien thing in the second one where all Highlanders are from this planet Geist or whatever. And then we had
it's like the Matrix. Thank God they only made one of those movies.
And we didn't need any more. We needed one Highlander. Avatar, the very first movie, loved it. Ate it up, drank all the Kool-Aid. Wonderful story, wonderful closure for me at the end of it. Didn't really feel like they left any loose ends for me. This is my perception, but perception outweighs truth 2-1. Didn't need a sequel. Went to see the sequel. Got the same really awesome, beautiful vistas and the floating islands and what are them bird things that they fly? What are those called again? I forgot. But those are cool. Those are absolutely cool. Yeah, I feel like a non-Star Wars fan talking about Star Wars.
Well, I just these, like, laser... I love the world, but I don't know the names of all these animals. Yeah, don't get me on that.
Yeah, anyway, love the first one. Didn't need a second one. Trailer pops up for the third one. And I'm like, I was like, damn it, I don't need to use the bathroom. I was really upset that I didn't need to use the bathroom so that I could miss it. I'm just done with Jake Sully's story. I also understand. I understand because I am a Star Wars fan. I understand that when you like something a lot, you just want more and more and more and more. So I get that part of it. I also love James Cameron, man. Everything he's done in his life, even the stuff not behind the camera with the Titanic and that whole bit, because I'm a huge fan of the Titanic. Not so much the movie, but the work in the actual trying to preserve it and trying to figure out ways to, get down there and see it. Not so much with the inflatable boats, but anyway, yeah. So will I probably see it? Yeah, I'll probably go see it, man. Is it something that I needed? No.
See, I am,
but I'm not going to judge you for liking it. I tell people all the time, like what you like. Don't worry about what anybody else says.
Yeah, I am stoked for it. It looked really cool. I really like the idea that James is going with here, where he's trying to do something very distinctive in each movie. Obviously, we're still continuing the story of Jake Sully and that whole thing, and we're going along there. There's this common thread amongst them, but I really like that he's trying to show different aspects of Pandora each time. And so obviously for the first movie, it was the forest dwellers and those that are one with the forest, and that's how they survive, and that's where they're symbiotic with the forest. And then in the sequel, then it was, okay, now it's the way of water. Now we are these people that have their symbiosis with the water, and that's how they have their community structured is in this symbiotic relationship with water and the animals that are in it. And now we have this thing where it has something to do with the fire tribes, which were mentioned in the second movie. And exactly what does that mean? So I'm very curious as well, given how the other two, or the first two films, are based off of a symbiosis with your environment, the forest, the water. I'm very curious as to what that means for this tribe, where they're called a fire tribe, so they have some sort of symbiosis with fire, which is inherently a destructive force. So I'm very curious as to how that plays there. And obviously, I think that the path that we're taking here, and one, I do wonder where we're going after the fire tribe whenever we have, because there's going to be at least five movies. And obviously the idea here is that Jake Sully will unite all these disparate tribes and of the Na'vi, and go to ultimately conquer evil. Be this unified force against this thing, because they're obviously keeping this going, where would they have like the colonel or whatever that was in 1, and then he came back in 2, and now he's coming back in 3. So I don't know. I think that's what they're going for here. I'm very curious to see it, and yeah, I'm excited. I like the look of it. I'm very curious to see how they will portray this symbiosis for this tribe with the destructive force, as opposed to living in harmony with one's environment. How they do that, where it's you have to destroy the environment with fire. So I'm very curious just to see how they do that. I think it'll be interesting. My issues with the second movie were small in the grand scheme of things. I still loved them. I'm still, obviously, I'm super into the Avatar series. I like them a lot. But my big things with that movie were the little guy, Spider. I can't remember what it's called. The human kid that was raised, and he was wearing a loincloth, in the movie.
Yes.
So I can't remember if it was Spike or Spider, what his name was. But whatever that kid's name was, why is he wearing a loincloth? Like, yeah, I get that he was raised around the Na'vi, but he was also raised around humans that are wearing military fatigues. And even the Na'vi are like Jake Sully, they're still wearing military. So why is this kid wearing a loincloth? Like, why does he have dreads? I don't know. So that was a weird one. I was just like, didn't get. And the other thing that I was like, we have so much technology these days. And so they have this character, which is essentially the daughter of Sigourney Weaver's avatar from the first movie, and she is voiced by Sigourney Weaver, and she is young, but they made no attempt to like de-age Sigourney Weaver's voice. So we have this girl that's supposed to be a teenager that sounds like a senior citizen, because she is voiced by a senior citizen.
It doesn't help that Sigourney Weaver smokes like a freight train.
Well, I mean, it comes through. They made no attempt to make this sound like she did not smoke a pack or a carton of menthol cools a day. I mean, she was sounding rough. So we'll see. But I am excited for Avatar: Fire and Ash. And the other aspect of this is that James Cameron is 71 years old right now, and he said that he has no plans to step away, that he fully intends right now to direct Avatar 4 and 5 himself. But he said that if he's not able to dedicate the time and energy to it, that he does have a fallback plan. He's going to build a relationship with the director. And he said that he would have to have a good relationship with the director, like he did with Robert Rodriguez for Alita Battle Angel, which I'm still hoping that they get that sequel for Alita Battle Angel. But he's like, I'm not saying that it's going to be Robert, but I would just need that kind of relationship with that director. So he still intends to do it himself for 4 and 5, but he said if he can't, he's got a fallback plan and some contenders. So we'll see. Hopefully he gets to do it. I hope he gets to be the one that carries out his vision to completion. But we'll see.
So you and I have never had this conversation ever. So I'm going to ask you point blank, and if I'm lying, I'm dying because I have a feeling we're going to maybe have the same answer. What's your favorite James Cameron movie? I should have said standalone, but I won't. I'm not. I'll let you. So Avatar's open.
Does it have to be a James Cameron directed movie?
No. I'm just going to say what is your favorite James Cameron? Hold on just a second so I can prove we're not lying about anything. I'm going to write mine down on a piece of paper if I have a piece of paper.
Okay, so I don't know. My favorite James Cameron movie, it would have to be. I mean, I have a feeling that I know where yours are gonna go, but I've got to say it would have to be either Alita Battle Angel, which he was deeply involved in. Robert Rodriguez actually directed it, but James Cameron was the writer, executive producer. He envisioned the world and worked directly with Robert Rodriguez. Or I really liked Avatar: The Way of Water. So no, it's not going to be one of the Terminator movies.
Mine is also not the Terminator.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I would say if it was just James Cameron involved, I really loved Alita Battle Angel. I thought it was very underrated, and I hope that we get that eventual sequel. And if it was one that he actually directed himself, wrote, directed, all that stuff, probably Avatar: Way of Water.
Well, you're not going to be able to see it, probably.
No. George Lucas is that's so much worse. But I did see for a split second there that it was The Abyss.
The Abyss, without a doubt, my favorite one. I love Ed Harris. I love Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio in that one. It was an excellent story.
Ed Harris is one that I always enjoy seeing him pop up and stuff. And,
him and Scott Glenn both. I love Scott Glenn and stuff too, man.
Every time Scott Glenn pops up, I'm like, oh, good, he's still around.
Yeah,
I'm glad he's
still good. He's not dead. All right.
Yeah. So but yeah, so that's the thing with Avatar and James Cameron. I hope that I hope he's able to complete out his vision for the entire 5 that he has there. And I bet even though once he kind of moves beyond the Avatar thing, once he completes the vision, gets to 5, I bet it'll be one of them they probably continue on in some form or another. They'll probably do something else. But yeah, I hope he gets to see his vision out. So
yeah. And I do too, man. I don't want anybody to not see their vision out. I just, I don't have to have it.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And I know that we, that's one of those where we disagree on that. And I know that we are again on the minority side, not only on Randy and giving Randy some grace whenever he says dumb things, but also on the new Predator movie that's coming out soon. And there was a lot of uproar and pyro and ballyhoo around the look of the new Predator and all this stuff. And you and I are both stoked about it. I'm very excited to see this. I think the new look is cool. I'm very excited to see, and I love Dan Trachtenberg. I followed him from whenever he had a podcast, and he just made fan films. And to see what he's done is awesome. But he is a real nerd. This guy is not some just random director guy that they found somewhere and want to get. This guy is a legit nerd. He is one of us. He's a gamer. He loves these sci-fi movies. He is doing this because he loves it, and I trust his vision. I was so impressed with Prey. I thought that Killer Killers was phenomenal, and now we're getting this one. And like we've said so many times, I am so excited that we finally get to see the Predator the way that we do in the novels and things like that, where we get to see the Predator be this thing that we cheer for. We don't because before all the other movies before, we just saw individual predators get their asses kicked. And they're supposed to be the biggest, baddest hunters in the universe. And now we get to root for them. Now we get to see them. We get to root for them standing tall at the end.
First off, I want to make a comment about Trachtenberg since you brought it up. But I like directors that aren't in what I call a stable of directors. They're just still on their own. So the couple of best cases for this is Spielberg. So, he's got Ron Howard in his pocket and he's got Bryce Dallas Howard in his pocket. And you look at Disney, they've got Favreau and Filoni and Bryce Dallas Howard and Taika Waititi. And then you look at the J.J. Abrams group where you've got J.J. Abrams and Alex Kurtzman and used to, God rest his soul, Roberto Orsi in there. And they did all those great movies. But you look at guys like Guy Ritchie and Wes Anderson and Trachtenberg. And even though Kaczynski falls in the Bruckheimer camp,
even Snyder.
Yeah.
Love him or love his movies or hate his movies. He's his own, he's an auteur.
Yeah. So Trachtenberg's kind of in that group of independent directors that I like. The second piece, and I already mentioned the fact that I love that they're using the quote unquote bad guy as the main character, the protagonist. But is that they're using an asset from Alien in the android in a Predator movie without it being an Alien verse. Because a lot of people, if you don't know, if you're not in full nerddom, if you're not a member of the nerdery, you have the Alien franchise, and then you have the Alien universe, and you have the Predator universe, and then the AVP universe, which is a totally different beast. And a lot of people don't realize that is a totally separate beast. And here we have a situation where we have a Predator movie that's going to utilize an Alien asset, but it's very much a Predator universe story.
Well, and speaking of that, where we have the android, and we've now seen the second trailer where before we didn't realize that this was a torso. That was just a torso of an android. I didn't even know it was an android. In the first trailer, we weren't told that it was an android. At least I don't believe that we were told that it was an android.
Right.
And then in this trailer, it is made very clear very quickly that it is an android. And it is like, it doesn't have legs. Like it's been torn asunder some way or another. And we get that scene where he's literally backpacking this android torso. And Dan Trachtenberg confirmed that was 100% inspired by Chewbacca backpacking C-3PO.
Oh, I was going to say Luke doing Yoda.
No, it was Chewbacca backpacking C-3PO.
Wow. Nice homage there without even really trying. That's pretty cool. But yeah, man, I'm absolutely looking for it. I love the new look. I think it's a good new look. I don't think you're ruining fandom by thinking that there's a Yautja on that planet that doesn't have a different hairdo than the ones we were used to seeing. Really stupid thing to pick on, by the way. And then,
go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, just excited for the new look in the movie in general.
Well, I'll tee it up for you one more time. So I will say that if you have not yet watched Killer of Killers, now would be a great time to watch it because it's actually slightly different now than it was if you were to watch it even a couple of weeks ago.
I heard that. We now have...
There we go.
And I had it. But it actually starts tonight, I think, the new version on Hulu. We have a final scene now. Of course, I haven't seen it to know where this final scene is at.
I thought you had watched The Killer of Killers.
No, I have not. So I'm going to get to watch... My first viewing is going to be the new version where Arnold Schwarzenegger has a role. I've made sure not to spoil it for myself, so I haven't looked. I know there's screenshots out there. I don't know what he's playing. So luckily I can't even spoil this for you folks if I wanted to. But I do know that it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger role that's an alteration to the final scene.
Yes, I will say that it's nothing crazy. It's nothing crazy, but it will be a nice nod that felt missing and seemed a bit like it seemed a bit incomplete whenever it was the final scene was the way that it was. Nothing big, but the fact that they now have Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny Glover commissioned in it now is good.
Oh, I didn't know about Glover.
Yeah, Danny Glover too. So it's good, but you gotta watch. You gotta watch Killer Killers. It's so good. It's so fun. It's a great movie. I hope that they do more like it. I love the bait and switch. And Dan Trachtenberg also directed Killer Killers.
Oh, okay. So
he's actually after now that we've got Predator: The Badlands coming out, that will be 3 Predator movies under his belt. Like this is the guy. I really hope that that this is the thing that he can kind of latch onto and sort of carry it forward, because it's been one of those things, like we've said before, that we had no intention to go this deep into this, but hey, it's the Hardcore Casual Podcast. It's what we do. But the where we had talked before about these failed relaunches, and I enjoyed the various relaunches that they attempted with the Predator films. They just, for whatever reason, they just never quite caught. Whatever that reason was, I always enjoyed it. I always wanted more of them, but they just never quite captured that audience to kind of get back into the zeitgeist. And Prey was an unexpected hit. That's why they released it on Hulu, was because they didn't think it was going to catch, and it did. And then
it was good.
And then they're like, oh, well, we made a big mistake. So many people, we could do the next one in theaters. So they did. So now we've got Badlands coming. But yeah, Prey, Killer Killers, Badlands. So stoked for Dan Trachtenberg, his success, and I'm excited to see where we go from here.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that whole, and I realize I just made a point of differentiating between the two franchises, but I actually liked Alien Romulus. I thought it was a new take on it. It was very good, a little bit vintage, and I thought that was where it needed to be. But, speaking of movies and TV, we had the Invasion of San Diego this week with San Diego Comic-Con, where all things, movies, games, comics, manga, anime,
the granddaddy of them all,
all of them, all come together as one. And I'll open it up with a funny story, since we just did Predator, but apparently there's a comic limited edition coming out where Captain America takes on the alien. So that's an interesting take for a Marvel comic to cross over, where you seem to have some reservations about Cap facing off against, and this is World War II era Cap, by the way, not modern Cap.
There's so many of these Commandos. There's so many of these bizarre crossovers that happen in comic book world. And I guess they kind of allow, I guess they're kind of more prevalent in comic books because comic books have such low readership these days. There was a time back in the heyday of like the X-Men and stuff, man, that was huge. Millions of copies. Now, a comic book is a success if it sells 5,000 copies. 5,000. I don't even know how. I mean, if most of these, like DC, Marvel, if they weren't subsidized by larger companies, they wouldn't exist. Right now, the only reason that they are allowed to continue is just so that they can farm those ideas for movies and stuff like that. It's kind of sad. Anyways, but in comic book world, I guess because it has such little visual, like it just doesn't pop into the mainstream like it used to. So they can kind of do these crazy wild crossovers, and it can kind of get new fans into it, and it doesn't really damage canon or anything like that. But it's always just so crazy. Like, I know that they've done crossovers where it would be like, I don't know, like the Power Rangers versus DC and weird stuff like that, or Batman versus the Ninja Turtles and that kind of thing. It gets a little crazy, and so to have Captain America versus Alien, or what was the other one that you told me about, was like Turtles versus Godzilla.
Yeah, Ninja Turtles versus Godzilla.
I'm like, I don't know, guys. I don't know. These cheesy crossovers. If anybody loves them, I'm not trying to come down on them. Like you said, like what you like. Hard for me to get excited about those kinds of things.
Well, the funny thing is too that comic books are not the crown jewel of Comic-Con. Obviously, it's the merch
a long time ago.
Merch and the movies and the television and games and stuff. But for the first time ever at Comic-Con, we had, as you can see by my background, George Lucas appeared at Comic-Con.
It's
for the first time.
One of the wildest stats. Like, you told me that, and I was like, how can that be true? You think, how, like, the biggest living nerd god.
Yes.
And this is his first time to be at Comic-Con. Also,
he had Star Wars Celebration went back in the day. So he.
Well, and also, I still love the fact that I don't even know how many billions he's worth now.
Oh, it's got to be ungodly.
And the fact that he's there wearing this old flannel shirt, that's like, if I won the lottery last night, this is how I would have dressed today. I just love that about him, that he's still just that guy, just with billions of dollars.
Yeah, and he lives on a ranch, although technically I guess it's not a real ranch, but it's still a ranch. Skywalker Ranch. He's out in the country, basically.
Not a lot of beef coming out of those planes.
apparently you and System, I want to address your comment here in a minute, but he wasn't there to plug a movie or a television show. He was there to plug an art museum that he's opening in Los Angeles because he has decided in his old age that he has 40,000 plus pieces of art sitting in the Lucasfilm archive that most people would pay a pretty penny to go in there just to look at. We've even had a whole movie about it, Fanboys, which I thought was an excellent movie, by the way, if you've not seen it. Trying to break into Lucasfilm archives at the ranch. So he's going to include a land speeder. I'm sure he's going to have a lot of McQuarrie's concept art from the very first movie. You brought up an interesting tidbit. I'll let you drop that dime, but I'm sure he'll have his full-size X-Wing and Chicken Walker in there, and probably a bunch of, obviously, props. And, of course, he doesn't have to just maintain it from a Star Wars aspect. He's got Indiana Jones under his belt that he can do. He's got Willow. He also wrote his own book. So
I think that's the only way you're going to see anything involving Willow at this point.
Yeah. I loved Willow.
Completely
I thought it was
nuked off of Disney Plus.
Yeah, I actually I love the books too that he did with Chris Claremont. But yeah, so yeah, I would love to see that museum. I think it'd be really cool to see some of that, especially some of the concept stuff, because the guy was totally into spaghetti westerns and samurai films, and that influence is shown heavily. If you really look at Darth Vader, he's got like kind of that Kensei style helmet on, and the whole Han Solo smuggler bit is very, very spaghetti western. The whole cantina scene, the whole bit, it's straight out of Fistful of Dollars.
That was one thing I was happy that they carried through. Whenever you have characters like Cad Bane, I mean, is straight up an Old West gunfighter.
Yeah, the duel at high. It was the duel at high, and especially that scene in Book of Boba Fett where it was actually Mandalorian, but where he had the. That's
why it was the one good. Duel. That's why it was the one good episode in the Book of Boba Fett.
I actually enjoyed Book of Boba Fett, but Boba Fett's one of my favorite characters, so I'm biased. Well, you like that?
He's one of my favorite characters too. That's why I hated the show so much.
Yeah, and I can see that. I can see that. You feel like it didn't do him any justice, really, but and I think Andor got back to that, which was awesome. Got back to that kind of Western with some drama bit to it, and the whole heist and whatnot. But it was good to see Lucas out and about. A lot of people hadn't seen him for a while, I guess. But we also had some other, just as you could guess, all the TV shows and the Marvel next phase stuff coming out with Marvel. But man, the one, and I'm gonna try. You might actually exacerbate this one, but when you talk about it, but we also got a trailer. And I'm one of those weird, because you have a lot of people out there that love Star Wars, and you got a lot of people out there that love Star Trek. And there's a lot of people out there, purists, that believe that never the two shall meet. But I love both. And we got a trailer for Starfleet Academy with Holly Hunter and Robert Ricardo, who played the EMH hologram in Star Trek Forever.
Holly Hunter won an Academy Award, by the way.
Wasn't it for the piano? No,
it was for 13.
Okay, well, whatever. But so she's in it. We saw things you should never see on a Star Trek show. The whole cast, besides Holly Hunter, is under the age of 10. And I'm exaggerating, but you get what I'm saying. I watched Nerdrotic and a couple other trailers where they're like, hey man, you could play Where's Waldo and supplant Waldo for, where's your, there's certain people that are missing from this group, a certain sect of people that are missing from this show completely. I mean, absolutely, 100%. We had a female Jim Hadar, which if you're a Star Trek fan, there's no such thing as a female Jim Hadar. It looks like a disaster. This is going to be a once and done season before it even comes out of the gate.
Well, I'm a fan of Star Trek in that I like what I've seen Star Trek stuff, but I don't know. I don't have deep lore knowledge or anything like that. I've certainly know far more about Star Wars than I know about Star Trek, but I enjoy Star Trek. I like it. It's cool. I like the idea of it. So I don't have the knowledge that you have of like whatever that alien race is, and all this stuff. I don't know all that. But I know that you love Star Trek. You're a fan of the games. You're a fan of the books and the shows and the movies and all that stuff, and you have this deep knowledge. And so you just sent me a text message and you said, watch this. And it's Star Trek Starfleet Academy. And I thought that you were excited for it because you gave no context in the text message. So I was like, okay. So I started watching it, and it did not get far into it until I was like, oh boy. I really hope something blows up or something. Like I hope there's like a oh, we gotcha. This is what it's really about. And I'm like, oh my God, I hope Jay didn't. I hope because I was like, I hope Jay didn't like this because I'm gonna have no good things to say about this trailer. I'm not gonna get in the weeds of some of this, all this stuff. The thing to me is just that it just looked like a bad, low budget CW teen drama thing. And again, I will say Holly Hunter won an Academy Award. What are you doing here, Holly? What are you doing? And a Oklahoma girl. And yeah, oh man, this is not good. It was not good. Like I said, I know nothing about any of these races or whatever that are popping up. I just know, never mind. I know that we've already let some words slip, but I know I know crap when I see it. This looks like crap. It smells like crap. It looks rough. It looks rough. And the other thing,
it smells like Teen Spirit.
Yeah. The other thing, though, to get back to George Lucas, the thing that I would like to see, and I haven't seen, I didn't even know that he was at Comic-Con until just like 30 minutes before we went live, or maybe about an hour or so before we went live. Yeah. And you told me about it. You're like, we got to talk about the Comic-Con stuff. I'm like, what happened? I've been out of the loop. It's been a busy week. So he told me about this, and the thing that I think would be cool, what I'd hope, and I've heard, you'd mentioned that he maybe even threw some shade at Kathleen Kennedy, one of our favorite people here. Obviously, we've been begging for her tenure to end for quite some time. But he's thrown shade at Disney Star Wars before on interviews and stuff like that. So I haven't heard what he had to say here. I'm going to have to look it up after the show. But what would be not only just cool just from a fan perspective, but also great just from a sticking it to him is if in this museum or art thing, whatever you want to call it, that he's constructing here, putting together, would be his treatment for what his vision of the sequel trilogy would have been. I would love to see that because immediately that will be the canon that everybody walks away with. That will be the head canon that the vast majority of fans will walk away with, and they'll just dismiss it. It won't have to be addressed. It won't have to be said. It'll get out there. People won't have to visit the script treatments and stuff like that. They'll get out online, and then people will be like, okay, this is my head canon. This is how it ended.
Yeah. And I think, if you're somebody like George Lucas and you gave us this wonderful galaxy far, far away, and you had your version of the story, that's your story. That's how you're seeing it, regardless of what comes out after you. So, and I hope he takes that with him. I hope that's something that, and I'm sure it is, because, it's not like he's got a lack of confidence or anything. So I'm sure he's like, hey, that's not my story. My story is, I'm not going to tell you what my story is, but I have it.
Yeah, well, and it's one of those things where I know a lot of the younger people, like younger millennials and Gen Z and that kind of stuff, like they already had this sort of reverence for the prequel trilogy simply because it's the Star Wars that they grew up with. They grew up with the prequel trilogy. They grew up with the Clone Wars. They grew up with all that. So that is automatically they're automatically attached to it because that's the version of Star Wars that they grew up with. Some of the older millennials, and then above that, obviously growing up with the original trilogy in one form or another, whether it was they were around whenever it hit theaters or they just saw it via VHS and DVD releases later on before the prequels happened. There was this sort of loathing of the the prequel trilogy by and large. And one thing about Disney Star Wars, though, is that after their sequel trilogy, it unified the entire Star Wars fandom in saying, you know what? Prequel trilogy wasn't that bad. It was actually pretty good after all of that. Yeah, see, exactly. System says I grew up with the it went away.
Sorry.
I grew up with the prequels, and that was my Star Wars. Watched them as they were coming out in the theaters. And so, like, obviously, those are going to have a special place in the hearts of people where they grew up like that. And so they won't have this kind of resentment that a lot of people have. But like I said, and then the sequel trilogy comes out and everybody's like, okay, no, that sucks. These are cool. So that
actually united both fandoms.
Yeah, exactly.
The prequel and
exactly.
the OG.
So the people that have been turning their nose up at it, they're like, okay, you know what? You can come sit at the cool table now.
Yeah, but we're going to run into a whole new situation when the kids that grew up with the sequel trilogy get to be, old enough to convey their own thoughts on life. They're going to be like, that's the one I grew up with, and it's so, I hope not.
I don't think it doesn't have the same, it doesn't have, because the thing that turned people off about the prequel trilogy, and I think it was one of those things that it just took time, and that's because they didn't like how political it was, where the original trilogy was all about this rebellion. It was inherently about war and fighting back and conflict, whereas the prequel trilogy was all about politics and political, conniving and setting up dominoes and that kind of thing. And so I think that the initial rejection of it was simply because they didn't get what they thought they were going to get, which was more fighting and stuff. But then I think as it goes, they kind of develop an appreciation for, well, obviously it's going to be a slower burn. It needs to be like, you need that sort of political intrigue stuff to learn how we got to the point that we got to. And I think there became this appreciation for the slower, more methodical way of telling the story, even if they thought maybe it could have been told better. I think they appreciated the content more, even if not necessarily the approach to it. Whereas the sequel trilogy just sucked. Like, I loved episode 7. I saw episode 7 like 5-6 times in the theaters. I was so excited. And then 8 and 9 is where we lost it. Oh, that's System says it too. I liked episode 7 for what it was, but 8 and 9, I tried to like them, just couldn't. Yeah, I loved 7. I adored episode 7. I was so excited after episode 7. And then episode 8 happened, and I was disgusted by it. And then whenever episode 9 came, JJ, they had to bring JJ back because Rian Johnson broke everything. And they tried to undo everything, but you just can't do that in one movie. And it just became an absolute mess. It just became a mess. And then the ending is just god awful, where that's this whole thing is what they call Star Wars episodes 1 through, unfortunately, 9 it's called the Skywalker saga. There's a reason that it's called the Skywalker saga. You need to have a Skywalker. Skywalkers are inherently important to the balance of this universe and to just spoilers, I guess, to have this thing where this person can just declare themselves to be a Skywalker. Just dude, is bad. And I hated the fact, and I've gone, and I'm, what time are we at here? I don't want to, I'm not gonna rail on this too hard, but my ultimate thing that I've complained about this to anybody who would listen, is that I hated that once again, we had the thing where Kylo Ren turns at the end, sacrifices himself, and dies. I'm like, why do we have to see this continue to happen in games and movies and shows? This doesn't make turning to the light side. This is a shitty retirement plan. Like, this seems like a pretty rough turnaround. Like, you turn and immediately you are gone. You are force ghosting with the best of them. Like this is a rough go. Like I was like, why do we keep recycling this? What I had hoped for, even as much as had gone wrong, what I wanted so bad was for, in the end, for Kylo to come around, and I think they also wasted a lot of opportunities that they had before to really make some really consequential things in the series before that, like whenever Princess Leia got blown out of the ship, and they brought her back, even though unfortunately Carrie Fisher had passed away, which I think was a really bad call. Anyway, what I wanted to see was Kylo Ren decide, you know what, he turns. He becomes light side or whatever. He's now a good guy, as it were. And then he doesn't die. Because even if we don't ever see the ramifications of that, even if they never made a movie where he comes back and we see Kylo Ren, just the knowledge that it's out there, and I know that they've done stuff like this in the books, but just the knowledge that out there would be this horrific, like this person that had done horrific things, and he has now turned to the good side, and now he has to coexist and live with what he's done and walk amongst people whose lives and families he has destroyed, and how they reckon with that. How do people just accept that this guy that butchered their families, their home planets, how do they reckon with the fact that he's just walking around chilling, with everybody else, and shown this respect? Just having the knowledge that situation was out there, I thought would have been a great direction to take it, and a really interesting thing. And instead, nope, he turns, he dies, and then someone declares himself Skywalker, and that's all.
He kind of got to do that as Matt the radar technician on The Undercover Boss on Saturday Night Live.
That was a fantastic skit. I love that one.
But anyway, by the way, I saw you look at your clock, but I still have 2 cents on this whole thing.
Oh yeah, no, you're good. I was just like, I don't want to go off on this. No, we're good. I don't have anything after this.
My kids, by the time they were old enough to understand and watch a movie and have a discussion about it, the prequel trilogy was already over. So in true Gen X fashion, I made them watch 4, 5, and 6, and then I made them wait like a month before we watched 1, 2, and 3. And so it flashed me back to when I was a kid and 4, 5, and 6 came out, and then we had to wait 20 years. So when 4, 5, and 6 came out, 6 finished in 83. Then we started getting VHS tapes, and there was a limited edition VHS set where it had like extra footage and interviews, and George Lucas let slip that Vader, he's like, I haven't even got to finish the stories that come before this and tell you about how how Vader used to be Anakin Skywalker, and him and Obi-Wan got in a fight. And then that's all he said. So all we knew was that at some point, Anakin Skywalker got in a fight with Obi-Wan and became Darth Vader. So for 20 years, plus 2 movies, plus waiting on the 3rd movie, so probably 26 years to find out how that all went down. And so I feel like people that started with the OG trilogy have a completely different viewpoint on the unfolding of that story, as opposed to people that got to see it in chronological order. For them, it was just a natural transition from 3 to 4. And for us, we started out in the middle of the story, and then we got the first part of the story. And then, what's this? Is this the last part of the story? And then I know you already did this, but don't even get me started on Rey Skywalker. I don't even want to talk about it. It makes my blood boil. The best part about that was her burying the lightsabers in the sand, because I felt like that's where they belonged. I also feel like Luke got a ripped off deal because Princess Leia got to grow up as royalty, and he grew up in the desert. Poor guy, literally.
Yeah, that got shafted on that one.
I also feel like Kylo should have lived, and then went back to the ship, and then embraced his mom. And just as he's embracing his mom, you see a blue lightsaber blade come flying through his back, because she took out Han Solo, or he took out Han Solo. So wasn't real happy about that.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say my closure still was him not making it, but in a different sense.
I wanted to bring up System here. So System's been going off on it himself. And
Yeah, I
this
see
was
him
something
going off over there.
this is something I forgot to mention, and it's true. So he mentions here how political and how bad the acting was in the at least the episode 1, and this is so true. So this is one where was that kid's somebody Lloyd, uh, whatever that kid's name was, the one that
Jake
played
Lloyd.
Anakin's Jake Lloyd, yeah,
Jake Lloyd.
that's
yeah.
rough. That was bad. That was really bad. I remember there was a friend that had not ever seen the movie, and for some reason we got into this thing of who could show the worst like child actor, and they were like, oh, it's the kid from the movie The Last Airbender, the live action Last Airbender movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I've got you beat. They had never seen Star Wars episode 1, so I gave them Star Wars episode 1 and I won, because it was awful. And
are you an angel? Wow, dude. I mean, come on.
The System also says that Kylo was his favorite part about the sequels, and it was so much wasted potential with his character. He was also my favorite part of the sequels. And this is how much I love episode 7, is that I was even like theory crafting on where they could go with it. I put so much more thought into it than anybody at Star Wars or Disney Star Wars did, for sure. I was like, this whole thing about how the very first scene of the movie, we see him like the blaster, gets shot at him, and he holds it in the air.
Yeah,
this blaster.
I was like, "What the hell?"
We had never seen that.
No,
and there was this whole thing about,
and it stayed there.
Yeah,
for the whole scene.
and so I had even theory crafted this whole thing, because we see him where he's got Vader's burned helmet, and he basically has it as this almost like an idol that he sort of looks up to, because he has this vision of his grandfather where he just thinks of him as this all-powerful being. And in my head, after seeing what we'd already seen, I was like, he doesn't know he's already more powerful than we ever saw Darth Vader being, at least in the movies. Like he's looking up to something, and he's already surpassed it. And what are we going to do? That nothing like that ever got pulled into it. Never even got teased. Nothing. I was so bummed with it. Also, the System mentions Finn, and we've talked before about how Finn just got absolutely wasted. Where like the coolest backstory for a good guy in this whole thing, where you literally have a stormtrooper that has a crisis of conscience and turns around, and then he just becomes comic relief by the third movie. Awful. And he was force sensitive, and then they never do anything with that. Just a waste, absolute waste. I 100% agree with System on that one. He says that would have been much better. I'm assuming you talk like Kylo living. So we got Rey Skywalker. Yeah. So, and yes, the laser thing. So pretty cool. That was the thing that sold me right from the beginning. That opening scene where the blasters and like holding it. I was like, I'm in. I'm sold. I'm good. And JJ's commitment to using practical effects made it look like Star Wars, where so many of the things that we had seen before didn't look or feel like Star Wars. Episode 7 really did.
Well, the other piece too, and you talked about he was already more powerful than Vader. For all of us followers and cultists of the expanded universe.
Yeah, I know that would get some heat from fans of the novels.
I feel okay saying this because I've read over 170 of the novels from the EU. But, there's the story that the Emperor Palpatine knew about the fight with Obi-Wan, and he knew Obi-Wan would win and that Anakin would be permanently scarred. And he wanted that to happen because apparently that suit took away about 20% of Vader's efficacy with the Force, or his ability to use the Force, because he no longer had organic limbs to channel through. So he was channeling the Force internally and pushing it through mechanical parts, and somehow that debuffed him. And the Emperor always wanted him to be weaker than he was, because he was afraid that, like all Sith are, that their apprentice would one day kill them. Which I hate to quote Palpatine right here, which in the end, of course, is exactly what happened. So, basically Kylo using this as a holy relic, of worship, this Vader helmet. Although I got to tell you, that was, if you're going to use a relic, that was the one to use, because for all the fans of the OG trilogy, he had to find that thing.
Mm-hmm.
He had to search that out and find that thing. And I think that's a cool story.
And that's another thing that they never even touched. I don't know. There's so much like,
or the Knights of Ren. We never got shit on the
Nope.
Knights of Ren, and that sounded so cool.
Yeah, it was. It was sort of like there were all these hints. And, oh God, this is. I did not intend for this to happen tonight, guys.
This has turned into a focus thing.
This is a therapy session, is what this has turned into.
Yeah.
But this was also the dumbest thing. I could not believe that this was the case. I thought so. Basically, whenever they did the sequel trilogy, I knew that they were going to have a different director for each movie.
Right.
I thought that they had a unified vision and that they would just be, but they didn't even have a unified vision.
No.
They just legitimately were just going to give each director carte blanche to do whatever they wanted. And Rian Johnson decided that he wanted to just, supplant everyone's expectations and, go against what everybody, and so he just ruined all these things that he intentionally screwed up all these setups, like, Rey's parentage. Oh, you came from nobody. And so many, and he also destroyed Luke's character. We had that amazing ending of episode 7 where she hands Luke the lightsaber.
Right.
And then episode 8 opens up with him throwing it away and getting a blue milk mustache and running away from his problems. Also saw him almost kill a child, like just absolutely butchering the
His
good
legacy.
name of this character that we all grew up with. I don't know. It was just absolutely insane. I could not believe that you went into this saying we're going to make a trilogy and have no unified vision.
It reminded me of, there's an old activity in summer camp you used to do where everybody's sitting around the fire at night and one person starts a story and then he stops and the next person carries it on, and they can do whatever they want with the story. So whatever you start, when it gets to, the third or fourth person, you're like, man, this is not where I wanted this to go at all. That's how we felt. That's how we felt.
And that's what you get whenever you do a free campfire story. But they did this with hundreds of millions of dollars after spending billions of dollars.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like, again, the old joke of, how do you turn, or how do you make a multi-million-dollar franchise? Well, if you're Disney, you do it by starting with a multi-billion-dollar franchise.
Yeah.
And then you just devalue it to even more every time, and that's what we've gotten to. So that was that. Whatever. It's just it hurts every time. Many. But System did mention, what was it? There's apparently a Deadpool Batman comic. So he said that the Deadpool Batman comic is crazy to me. I might get back into comics just for that. I did not know about this. This is something we will never see on a big screen unless things get real desperate.
Which is funny by itself, because one of Batman's biggest enemies is Deathstroke. And Deathstroke, the guy from Marvel, loved the Deathstroke comic. And literally Deadpool is based on Deathstroke.
Yes.
Even their names. One is Slade Wilson and the other one's Wade Wilson. So
yes. It was intended as a parody of Deathstroke. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's really cool. But man, we've got to do our spoiler
Fantastic Four.
We close this thing out.
Yeah. Spoilers. We have,
spoilers.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. We'll just go into it. I guess we'll make this quick and dirty. So basically, my thing with this, like I told you, it was fine. It was fine. If I was to compare this to Superman, I greatly preferred Superman. And the things that I told you whenever you I had seen it just like 12 hours or 24 hours before you did, and you'd ask me, you're like, hey, I'm going to see it tonight, but what do you think? Like, just no spoilers. What do you think? And I said 2 thumbs sideways. And you're like, oh, so definitive. And I told you that everything you will like, you will not get enough of. And that's what I walked away with the most, is everything that I really liked, I just didn't get enough of. There just wasn't enough of it there. I really liked Johnny Storm, and you just didn't get enough of him. I really liked The Thing, and you just didn't get enough of him. And I actually really liked The Silver Surfer. And you got not even just not enough. She was in what, 4 scenes in the entire movie?
Who?
The Silver Surfer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, I mean, she was insignificant in the movie, and she was super cool. I thought she was great. I thought Julia Garner did a fantastic job with her. I thought she had like the crazy presence, and they did a really cool thing where you got to see some of her powers of like, going through. I don't know. They did a great job, and you barely see her at all.
So
it's crazy.
I never usually, I always call him either Kirby Silver Surfer or Mobius the Silver Surfer, but the two guy ones. And I got to tell you, I went into that movie. I went into that movie thinking she was going to be the weakest link in this movie. I left that movie going, you were right. I left that movie going, dude, the parts she was in were significant. And the way they told her story, I actually freaking empathized with her. I mean, and it was a conundrum of all, the dilemma was real for her. And I get it. And then she had a change of heart, and then she didn't, and she did. And that, I wanted more of that, and we didn't get it.
I will say also in regard to Silver Surfer, why, I don't know if maybe it just wasn't ready. If it's because it wasn't ready, then Marvel, take this as a hint, never make a trailer with footage that isn't ready. Or if they went back to the drawing board a little bit, strictly because of the backlash that the trailer received. But she looked significantly better in the movie than she did in that trailer. That trailer looked, I mean, it was bad. Where the Liquid Terminator and Terminator 2 looked better. Yeah. But in the movie, you could actually see this kind of like tarnished look to the silver, and it looked far better in the movie that we now have in the theatrical release than it did in the trailer. So if you're afraid about the appearance,
I'm also glad they showed scenes of her before she was the surfer.
Man,
because a lot of people aren't going to know who she is, and I really enjoyed
those
the
scenes
background.
didn't help.
I really enjoyed the background on it, which I thought was neat.
I didn't.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's fine that they did it, but it's one of those things that, like, well, give me more than this. I mean, you get to see her walk. Oh, it's spoilers. Where I said spoilers. You get to see her walking around with her daughter, and then all of a sudden she just gets beamed up into the sky. We don't know how. Like, we know that she became what she was because of this agreement that she gave Galactus. I'll be your herald if you just spare my planet. And he did. He took her. But why would he listen? We don't know why he would listen. We don't know why he agreed, what he saw in her. We got virtual, like, we knew the story, but we didn't know why, how, what made her special. Why did he take her up on it whenever he looks at people as ants? All this stuff. And things like where it came out where they're like, why is Galactus choosing these planets? And we find out, well, it's not Galactus, it's her. She's choosing these planets. Okay, what's your criteria? Why does she choose the planets that she chooses? We don't know. They never tell us. They tell us that she's the one that's choosing the planets, but they never tell us why she chooses those planets. And I wanted to know. And we didn't get it. There was so much of this where it's like, I don't know if maybe they shot the scenes and then they cut it for time. This is one that I would love a 3-hour cut of this movie if it got us more of this story, if it got us more of these things that we're missing. Just like Johnny Storm. Johnny Storm he's portrayed as the womanizer and the hot shot and all that stuff. And that's great. We got that. But we also got to see the side of him where we're like, why was this guy even in outer space? He's always kind of shown as this womanizing hot shot, but we never get to see that he's a smart guy. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I can't believe you're. So when I asked my son for his 2 cents on this movie, his favorite thing about the whole thing was that he's like, I watched the other Fantastic Four movies, and Johnny's always this dummy that he's just there to pick on. And he's like, in this movie, he's like super smart.
Yeah, well, it's like
And
if he was an idiot, why would he be up there? Like, why would he have
well,
been on the spaceship if he was a moron, right?
I mean, obviously I'm guessing he was that world's version of a NASA pilot. And those guys aren't just regular pilots, and even pilots
Well,
are super smart. So
but he wasn't the
he's
pilot.
oh, what
The thing was the pilot.
which is crazy because usually Johnny's the guy. But you know, you saw the womanizing bit that you're talking about, but I loved how driven he was
Exactly. And we
with the
needed more of
language.
that.
Yes, you're right, man. You're right.
Because we got to see him where he was
And
like, he had this idea. He was like, hey guys, this is important. Everybody's like, okay, whatever. Yeah, shut up. You know, and kind of dismissive of him. And we get to see that like he's not just some dude that like flies around. Like he's brilliant. He's very smart in his own right.
You and Nightstride were on the same sheet of music when it comes to that. And I didn't even think about it until after he talked about it.
And so it's like we finally get to see that he's this really intelligent character, which is why he was there to begin with. So Ben Grimm was the pilot, and then everybody else was there because of their minds, and we never got to see that. So it was cool that we got to see hints of it, but I wanted more of it, and we just didn't get to see more of it. I thought that their portrayal of Galactus was pretty cool. He looked great.
Yeah, man. Stellar. I loved
intimidating.
Yeah.
The whole
comic
ship,
accurate.
Yeah, and the ship going through the planets, like as it's like turning all these spikes and like grinding these planets up.
Yeah,
that was awesome. But again, we didn't get enough of is why does he hunger? How does he consume the planet? So we just saw that mechanically the ship bursts through these planets, and then whenever they're on his ship, you see chunks of brick not brick, but rock and soil and stuff like that going on these conveyor belts. But how does he feed on that? How does he feed? Why does he feed? Like, why is this? He talks about how he used to be as small as they were, and as he feeds, he's grown larger. And you can kind of tell by the way that you're looking at him, he's probably just parts on top of parts on top of parts, and that maybe he's still this little guy somewhere down in it. But you never know. They never explain it. It's these things that they could have really done a great service in going in, and they just kind of. This is one where severe thunderstorm is coming. That's why I keep looking at my phone. There's a severe thunderstorm coming along its way. So if I drop, I'm sorry, but yeah,
you getting the warning too. So
but you see, we got all this stuff, and you just don't see enough of it. That was the biggest thing for me, is you just don't see enough of it. And then my two gripes that I had. One of them was the scene, which is actually a really great scene for take away my complaints, but it was a great scene. But that was where Johnny confronts the Silver Surfer, and he pulls out his watch and he hits the thing because he's basically translated her native language, and he knows what these transmissions that they've been receiving, that he's noticed, he's been able to decipher them, and he plays them. Why can Johnny control every screen and speaker in the entire Times Square from his watch? Like, when did he get this level of access? Like, why is he given this? Why could he control every screen in Times Square, but they have to get approval whenever they want people to conserve power? Like, what are we doing here? I was like, what's going on? I was a bit confused by that. And then the big one that I got, where that I was just like, come on, guys, was this whole thing where they've determined, like, okay, we're gonna move the Earth, which I thought was cool. I was like, I know this has got to go tits up somehow. Dude, this isn't gonna work.
That was my favorite part of the plot.
Yeah,
and then of course what happened. But yeah, that was my favorite
so
part.
she goes through, the Silver Surfer goes through, and boom, 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 all this stuff goes away. And the thing that got me was, okay, so they have that one left. It's in the middle of Times Square. And then they've got Galactus, moseying around. And this whole thing about Galactus, again, he sees people like ants. He's a force of nature. He's trying to retire, right? He doesn't want to do it, but he just does it because he has to, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he sees people as ants. He's walking around, and they're luring him with the boy because he wants Franklin. And so there's this thing, 3 pillars that he is trying to walk into. Not only are there 3 pillars, there's a neon yellow triangle that the kid is in the middle of. What? Come on, guys. What are we doing?
It was Roadrunner.
Yeah, like if
it was Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote.
So he sees people as ants. If ants came into my kitchen and stole my spatula, and then I went into the lawn looking for it, and I saw my spatula laying in the middle of my lawn, and as I walked closer to that spatula, and I saw like a neon orange circle around it, I'm not walking inside that circle, even if it's just ants, right? Like, I'm not walking inside that circle. So the fact that they had this yellow triangle around the baby, dude, what? Come on now. That was just too much. That was a bridge too far for me. And that whole thing where he's like with foot, like, oh no, yeah, like, oh, come on, guys.
Yeah, that part. My other piece was just the contraption itself. Like, he's walking and he gets this big open spot. Now there's these 3 rods, and then you got the target basically in the middle. I thought they stole the kid, like Johnny, and when they took the kid and swapped him for the empty container, I was like, why'd you do that soon? Kind of thing, because I was like, he's going to figure this out. This is stupid. So Galactus figures that part out, but doesn't figure out the target on the ground with the 3 pieces of architecture that obviously don't match the surrounding architecture.
Well, he did figure it out. That's the thing where he had his foot, and then he was like, oh, no. You almost got me. You almost got me.
It was Roadrunner running towards one of Wile E. Coyote's traps and then stopping right at the last second. And it's like,
yeah,
kind of thing. So that part was absolutely goofy. And maybe they meant it. Maybe they were maybe it was a comic book trope and they were trying to do that. I don't know. It didn't come across well in the theater.
Yeah, and I guess some of the closing thoughts would be, I also did not like as I've said on this show before, I don't like it when the final fight is determined by which side can hit the other side the hardest. Where it's just like, oh, I'm going to hit you harder, Malal. Now I'm going to hit you even harder than that. And just back and forth, back and forth. And I know that there was a little bit of the portal or whatever, but it just came down to, I'm going to push you, you push me. And I just didn't like it. I wish that there would have been something a little bit more satisfying in the end than that. I do like that the Silver Surfer got to be the one to like really. Oh, that's the other thing about Johnny that was completely ignored in this movie as well, is that Johnny was the heroic one in this whole thing. He was going to sacrifice himself at 2 points in the movie. He first went, and whenever the Silver Surfer first came, immediately when she came and said, hey, we want to do this, and then they find out that she wants that they want the boy, and then he tells her, hey, take me instead of Franklin. Take me. I'll go. You take me, leave the boy. And so he was going to sacrifice himself there, and then at the end he was gonna go and push Galactus into the portal and sacrifice himself again, and the Silver Surfer went and did it herself. But like, Johnny was the most heroic in the entire movie. He was willing to give up everything.
One thing you haven't talked about, and I thought for sure you were going to hammer it home. You were going to hammer it home. How about the 10 minutes we spent of the Fantastic Four being call center agents? Can we talk about the 10 minutes of them in cumulative 2 different scenes of them wearing headsets being customer service for the world?
That was dumb. I don't know why Thing had to grow a beard. Maybe that's
why was Thing a non-issue in this movie completely.
Yeah. Exactly. I love the Thing, and we barely got we barely got anything.
Yeah.
There was also the thing where Reed Richards, it's even said on here, when this is true, this is a trait of him, is like, he has to think about these awful things. He has to think about these awful things so that other people don't have to, right? And so if you think about these awful things, why did you think telling people that
Oh my
he wanted
God,
your son was a good idea. You thought they were these people that are just scared for their lives, they're little bitty savages, that you think that they're just going to take that just fine, and you'd be like, yeah, you made the right call. Like, no, they're not going to say that. Like, why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Well, there's a lot of people, and this has been talked about for years. When you talk about Reed Richards as a comic book character, that, and I say this with the utmost sensitivity because he is a genius, and that it was part of an OCD thing because, he's, I mean, he's, a lot of people argue that in the comics that he's basically on the spectrum and that Sue is the only one that can really hit home with him and reach him, which I think is the best part of Reed Richards, because I was never a Fantastic Four fan, but that's his flaw, that he's always thinking of these awful things. But God, I got to tell you, and we're running out of time, and I'm not going to get to it, but my real only gripe with the whole movie, other than what we've already mentioned, was him telling everybody that the choice was his son or the Earth. I'm like, dude, why even say that?
Yeah,
just
granted,
say Galactus is coming. We need to prep.
Yeah, exactly. Because don't get me wrong. If that was me, I would also be like, no, you go to hell. You're not getting my son. But whenever I came back, I'm gonna be like, yep, he wants to kill us all. I'm just not telling anybody because people are not gonna be rational beings, and he should know this. I did like that we barely got to see him use his powers, because I think that the whole stretchy thing is really hard to make look cool in the movie.
Yeah, man.
So even the little bit that we did see didn't look great. So that was it. But I did think it was stupid that whenever Galactus stretched him, he barely stretched him, and he's like, he's like, dude, you could wrap around this guy like 4 times. Like that made no sense to me. So there was a little bit of canonical inconsistency there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess the last thing I want to say is that even though I praised Superman for being unrelatable in the fact that, hey, it's a world and they're not trying to make it a one-to-one of our world, and they're not trying to copy our politics, and they're not trying to do they want it to be a comic book world. This one took that to the nth level, where it's supposed to be the super high-tech thing, but even though it was cool that they did this retro futuristic look, it was hard to kind of see this as being technologically advanced.
Yeah.
When you're doing, like, when you're decrypting languages on records, or you're looking at, code on a screen to get a sonogram, or so it was kind of hard to see this as being some advanced civilization whenever it still looked like the old TV that your grandma had that didn't work.
Well, it was kind of disconcerting because you had like 60s era looking cars. They're wearing 70s era clothes. The inside of all the buildings was 80s era. But then when you see him doing a sonogram on the baby, I mean, hell, we don't even have that technology. So it's like, how did this world evolve?
Yeah. Where it's like, is there
instead of dropping the bomb, they refocused their nuclear energy into tech. That's the only thing I could use to reconcile it in my head,
Yeah, it was bizarre. It was bizarre. So it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was fine, but like that's my biggest complaint. All these little gripes or whatever, it was still an enjoyable experience, but ultimately that's my biggest complaint, is that all the things that I really liked, I just felt like I didn't get enough of.
And man, that's an excellent summation. It really is. I mean, that's, and oddly enough, the realistic approach to it too is it was a short movie. It wasn't even 2 hours. So it was almost like we weren't going to get enough of the things that we liked anyway.
Yeah, it was a tough one, which, I mean, we had said before we saw it, whenever we did our pre-watch review, is that what my concern was, that even though there's really no way around it, obviously the Fantastic Four, they start out as a team. You can't have like 4 movies where you introduce each character and then bring them together, because that's not how they came together, right? They've always been a team. But you're doing this movie that is completely standalone, and you're introducing 4 characters, or reintroducing 4 characters in the same movie, plus Galactus, plus Silver Surfer, and to try to get all of this background in on this team and these characters while they fight the literal biggest, baddest villain in Marvel in one movie. That was a tall order, and they just didn't quite fulfill it. It's a fun movie. It's a fun watch. I'm not going to say it's a bad movie. It was fun, but if I had to pick between this movie and Superman, I'd take Superman, hands down.
I did want to send a quick shout out to Stephen Moffat, who played the Fantastic Four's version of Gilbert Sullivan or whatever on the talk show.
No, I thought that was Geddes, or whatever. Not Stephen Moffat. Was it? That's not
Moffat.
I
always mix those two up anyway, but yeah.
It was like what's the guy's? I think it's like Geddes or something like that. But he did do a great job. Mark Gatiss.
Yeah, Gatiss. Yeah. So, you know why I did that? Because Mark Gatiss and Stephen Moffat did Sherlock together. They were the creators of the BBC Sherlock, which he also played Mycroft Holmes on. But he is an excellent bit actor. You know what I'm saying? And his American accent was great, which was crazy.
Well, that also, like, what they called was it the Trans-Pacific or whatever accent from back in the day? That 60s era thing. Whenever like the Mary Tyler Moore, not Mary Tyler Moore, the Marilyn Monroe movie era, all those accents and stuff.
Yeah, and
transatlantic accent.
His take on a 60s, 70s era talk show host was spot on, man. It was one of the few spot on performances in it. But yeah.
So, anyways, it was fun, but yeah, it was not as cool as I'd hoped, and even the end credit scenes were not. There weren't anything.
You're not missing anything.
Yeah.
If you don't stay.
Yeah, it's nothing crazy. You just see. I'm not a fan of. I wish they hadn't even included Franklin. I wish Franklin was not involved in it. I think like it's the Fantastic Four. Don't bring the child god into this thing. What I'm hoping is that basically this is going to be a tool used by Doom to collapse all the timelines into one, and then we just cut ties with all that, and we relaunch with the X-Men, and we just move forward. That's my hope.
Yeah, I said something in the theater. It probably didn't go over so well when Sue bites it, and I realized they saw Franklin, and I leaned over to my son, and I said it kind of loud on purpose. I'm like, well, at least they don't have to change the name of the group.
They put a lot of money into those costumes.
Yeah, they don't have to turn into the Fab Five. So anyway, yeah, you're right. I like Superman better than Fantastic Four, which I hate to say it, but I figured I would anyway. But here we are.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we should cut it short. We've got storms coming, and we have ran our time. But thank you for joining us, everybody that's watching live, everybody that's watching this later. Thank you so much. Again, feel free to visit comfort.com/hardcore for 15% off any and all purchases. And again, that does stack on top of their current summer sale where they're offering everything for up to 70% off. So comfort.com/hardcore. This is their airplane mode hoodie. That's what I've been wearing tonight because I like pockets, and this has a bunch of hidden pockets as well as the sleeping mask hidden in the hood. So that's what I'm wearing.
All right, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Thank you.